NFL Week 5 top 5 player props to bet this weekend. I'm John Kelly. Let's hear the picks. We're going to start things off in the London game as the Packers take on the New York Giants. I like Romeo Dobbs over 43.5 receiving yards. I like Dobbs to go over this number. For starters, the late round draft pick only earned 8 targets to the first 2 weeks of the season. Since then, it's clear he's developing some trust from Aaron Rodgers and continuing to build on that chemistry. He's earned 8 targets in each of his last 2 games. He's gone over that 43.5 receiving mark as well. He is clearly one of Aaron Rodgers' number 1 targets in this passing offense. He led them in targets the past 2 weeks. I think we continue to see that trend as they go up against the New York Giants here. I like Romeo Dobbs over 43.5 receiving yards. Next up, we're headed to Gillette Stadium as the Detroit Lions take on the New England Patriots. I like Jamal Williams over 55.5 rushing yards in this one. Since DeAndre Swift has went down, it is clear they're going to treat Jamal Williams like that workhorse back. He's had 19 carries and 20 carries in each of the last 2 games. They are not going to be shy with feeding him the rock. He has 195 rushing yards in that span as well. I think 55.5 is a pretty reasonable number against the New England Patriots here in a game that both teams are likely going to look to establish the run. So give me Jamal Williams over 55.5 rushing yards. I think it's a little too low. Next up, we're looking at an under as the Chicago Bears head to Minnesota to take on the Vikings. I like Cole Kmet to go under 27.5 receiving yards. Listen, straight up, if the Bears aren't willing to let Justin Fields throw the ball more than about 20 times a game, it's just naturally going to be really hard for his pass catching options to hit overs on a lot of their marks, even though we've seen the lines start to come down aggressively. His passing prop is like 159 yards. That's just not going to cut it. And then you have a guy like Cole Kmet, who isn't historically a great target earner to begin with. He's had 8 targets across the 4 games this season. He's only gone over this mark in 1 out of their 4 games. I just don't think there's going to be enough volume in the Chicago passing attack in general, but specifically for a guy like Cole Kmet, who's just not a great target earner, especially this season with Justin Fields under the helm. Next up, we're looking at the Tennessee Titans backfield as they're set to square off against the Washington Commanders in Washington. I like Derrick Henry over 102.5 rushing and receiving. I actually like his receiving prop alone at 12.5 yards. This is something that I don't think the books have fully accounted for yet. It is clear that Tennessee is more willing to let Derrick Henry be involved in the pass catching game a lot more than he was in previous seasons. They lost their first 2 games in embarrassing fashion. He only had 1 target in both of those games. Since then, he's had 11 targets in his past 2 games. He's actually been very productive out of the backfield catching passes. So even though I think he can go over this mark on the rushing alone in what should be a favorable game script as a 2.5-point favorite against the Commanders here, I like adding the rushing and receiving because I think his receiving role isn't being fully accounted for just yet. So I like Derrick Henry to go over 102.5 rushing and receiving this week. Which brings us to number 5, and I gotta say, kickers are people too. We're gonna show them some love with the Daniel Carlson over 1.5 field goals made. This is a mark that he's hit in all 4 games this season. He's made 12 field goals across those 4 games. Dating back to last season, he's actually hit this mark in 10 of his last 12 games. Monday Night Football, they're headed into Kansas City, and honestly, I just like targeting the field goal props on offenses where I know they're not going to have trouble moving the ball. Guys like Devontae Adams, Darren Waller, Josh Jacobs coming off a big game. However, they tend to struggle in the red zone, and part of that is due to their middling QB play in Derek Carr. So I really like this field goal prop for Daniel Carlson. He's hit it a bunch already this year. I think he's going to continue to do so in what should be a high-scoring game on Monday night in Arrowhead. So you can bet these props individually. You can try to fade me if you want. If you have Prize Picks, you can parlay these together, get a nice little bonus there. Either way, however you do it, best of luck. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you guys next time.